Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video. We have finally reached the end of the first day for Junk World. As of the time of this recording, it is almost midnight and we are about to hit September 10th. I would just like to say first of all that I am super stoked that this game finally came out, and I am super happy that it has not only met my expectations but also exceeded them. I'm very well impressed with this game as far as its soft launch is concerned, and hopefully it will get even better when the hard launch finally goes worldwide and reaches all the other countries. As an Android player, I was able to kind of do a workaround, and somebody showed me a technique that I was able to get Junk World earlier than I should have been able to, but even so, I appreciate that. That person knows who they are. And in any case, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and really quickly give you guys my first impressions of the game. As a note and a disclaimer, I would just like to say that I have only played through the majority of the first map of the campaign. I have not played through all the maps. I do not have everything unlocked. All of these impressions are based off of what I currently have and what my current experience is in the game. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the first subject, and I know this is going to be everybody's first gripe, so bear with me here. The energy system. Is it bad or is it misunderstood? So the max energy you can have at any time is 40 energy points. You can either spend plutonium to refresh it instantly, or you can wait and it will recharge over time. A level costs 6 energy to enter and 3 if you want to restart it. You can reattempt a level up to 4 times, which will cost you a total of 12 energy, and even then you're still just below half your total energy bar at around 18 energy. Beating 2 levels will earn you enough plutonium back to fill your entire energy bar completely, because you earn 3 plutonium at the end of each level. So that's going to give you 6 plutonium at the end of 2 levels, assuming you beat it. And I believe you do need to get 3 stars in order to earn that plutonium. Now, maybe I'm wrong on that. I haven't really lost too many stars or lives yet in the game. The majority of the levels that I've encountered thus far are pretty easy. So plutonium and earning it back so that you can replenish your energy bar at any given point in time, for me at least, has not been really that much of an issue. Here's the thing where I think this energy system is misunderstood by a lot of people as bad. In Kingdom Rush and that series, you were able to just reattempt a level over and over and over again with absolutely no waiting time whatsoever. And people were like, okay, well, this is great. I can just keep going back and throwing myself at a level. You guys ever heard of the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The whole point to this energy system is to make you guys stop. Use what little brain cells you have in your brains. I'm just kidding. I'm not calling you guys stupid. But in all seriousness, you need to take time and analyze the level, which will lead me to my next point in the next slide, but we'll get to that in a second. The point being, you cannot just go into a level and expect to win and have it be easy. This game, they were not kidding in the trailer when they said it was a fast-paced battle, okay? A lot of these enemies move very, very quickly. You thought Sandhounds and Wargs from the original Kingdom Rush were bad? Oh boy, just get ready. There's going to be quite a few enemies in this game that move very, very quickly that you need to deal with. The game will punish you for bad gameplay. Whether you mistime your abilities, whether you put down towers in crappy spots, whether you misuse your tactics or just don't use them accurately at all, the game will punish you for bad gameplay. It will force you to take a break and come back to it later unless you want to spend the plutonium to replenish your energy bar. Is this really a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to make people pause, take a break, and then come back to a level if they're having trouble with it? I think something that a lot of people are missing is as soon as somebody makes a tutorial on how to beat each level, you're going to be able to cheese every single one of these levels, okay? There's a whole host of videos out there on YouTube for Kingdom Rush levels. There's a number of different ways you can beat it. Heck, you don't even have to use vanilla gameplay. You can use just spamming towers. One tower type is all you need to beat most levels in the Kingdom Rush saga, which is just absolutely ridiculous. In Junk World, that is not the case, and we'll discuss that later, actually very shortly. But I don't think this energy system is bad. I think what it's doing is forcing people to play at a higher skill cap than they're used to. This game is not for casual players, period, end of story. And if your skill cap is, hey, I'm a casual gamer who doesn't, like to think a lot during, games that I play, especially ones that are strategy, that's the whole point of this game. It's a tower defense game. It's strategy genre. So if you're not prepared to play at a higher skill cap and at a faster pace, quote unquote, which honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys, while some of the enemies themselves are fast, the gameplay itself is really not that bad. I think it's well balanced. I think it's great. But in all seriousness, again, the energy system I think is a little bit misunderstood and hated on too much. Again, you're being forced to play at a higher skill cap. It will punish you if you're bad at a level. But you can reattempt these levels a number of times before the cost becomes too prohibitive. And it's very easy to make that plutonium back so that you can replenish your energy bar. Now, I understand if you want to save the plutonium and spend it on other things in the shop, such as gold, or just buying other things. I haven't fully explored that, to be honest with you guys, since I don't really care about the microtransactions, you know, what have you. That's neither here nor there. Personally, I have not found this energy system to be that much of a hindrance. The only time this will ever be a hindrance for you guys is if you're not willing to spend the plutonium to replenish your energy bar, if you're saving up for other things, and if you just are bad at the game. If you can't remake that plutonium back because you keep failing the level, the game will force you to take a break. That is exactly why this system is in place and designed to make you pause, to make you think, to make you analyze each level. You cannot just rush into this. This is not Kingdom Rush. This is Junk World. Completely different game style, completely different gameplay. If you were expecting this to be like Kingdom Rush, you are erroneously mistaken. Moving on. Towers. In a word, amazing. What are the pros on these? They're well balanced. Their roles are clearly defined. The design and artwork, as always, Ironhide, we love your artwork. It's amazing. There's decent variety. Could use a little bit of tweaking. However, you can only place a limited number of each tower type. Now, as soon as I say that, you guys might be thinking, well, why didn't you place that in the cons? That sounds like it's a negative, right? Wrong. What did I say earlier about Kingdom Rush? This is not Kingdom Rush. You cannot just spam one tower type in a level and just cheese it. You are forced to use different towers. This is what the tower defense genre is meant to be like. What is the point of buying a tower defense game or, you know, downloading it, if you will, if it's free, and just spamming one tower? That would be like going to Plants vs. Zombies and from level 1, I just use pea shooters to cheese through the entirety of the game. Or puff shrooms. You know, I know Shy Guy Mask did a video where he basically only used 2 freaking towers, or 2 tower slots, 2 seed slots to cheese the level. That's ridiculous. In a game with that many plants, that shouldn't even be allowed, and yet it still is. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but in this case, I'm honestly kind of happy that they're forcing us to use the other tower types. It's making us get used to the game style and the gameplay for each one. You are not going to be able to just spam towers. If you thought that was going to be the case, sorry, I hate to break it to you, folks, that ain't the case. What are the cons, however? You cannot build towers in between waves. The range for some is a bit frustrating since they can't target enemies right next to them. Examples of this include the Sniper's Nest or the Mortal Mortar. The damage range is a bit RNG based for some towers such as the Sniper's Nest or the Mad Scientist. I get that. That could be very frustrating, especially when you're dealing with fast moving enemies or even just a slow moving enemy that's kind of hard to lock onto because of the swarms that are already in place. Okay, I get that. The RNG damage does need some tweaking for the towers, as does the range. Kind of wish the Sniper's Nest could just attack anything that was right next to it. The Mortar kind of makes sense. But again, guys, this is not Kingdom Rush, and this is just the soft launch of the game. Keep in mind the developers are receiving feedback from a bunch of people in this community, and they are probably listening to everything and anything that we have to say about the game. That's why this is a soft launch. This may be something that they change in the future. It might not be. But the whole point is not to shoot the messengers. They're just delivering us the content. If you want to chew them out for it, everybody has the right to do so, but just let's relax. This is just a soft launch. But overall, I think the towers are great. I'm happy that they're forcing us to use each tower type. I think each tower type has a place. The only other real caveat that I would say that I didn't list here is just the fact that the amount of money that you get sent to spend on any given wave is a set amount, okay? You cannot earn money by killing enemies. You cannot earn resources. Kind of wish that was a thing. At least allow us to earn gold or something, if not the gears to put the extra towers down, okay? Again, you know, you don't want to spam too many towers, and I kind of like that it's limiting the number of total towers that we can put down. But even so, I still think it's an interesting mechanic. I'm not sure whether it's a complete positive or negative at this point, but even so. Moving on, tactics. The cherry on top of the cake. or Pi, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Pros, variety is excellent. You can micro your barrack units. You could only do this with your hero in the Kingdom Rush games. You could not micro your reinforcements. The Harpooners, the Trashmen, the Misfits, you can micro all of them. The Harpooners can freaking attack while they're moving, which honestly kind of is a little reminiscent of Doom Tank, and it's a feature that I sometimes love, sometimes hate. It's, one of those double-edged swords as far as, if an enemy's about to leak through, obviously shoot at it, but if it's something I need to stall, I want you to get your butts over there, quit being goofs, and, go stall the enemy. Each ability feels useful, okay? Each one of these tactics feels like it has a place in the meta, okay? Everything has a clearly defined role. Your hero, the Mad Mark, with his little trusty dog. What is it? Meatball is the name of it, I think, if I remember correctly. Absolutely adorable, and I love that thing. It's great. It's kind of like a better version of Illyria Swiftwind, if you think about it. Except it's actually useful. And the reinforcements, the Harpooners, being able to put down a couple of those. I like how, and this is something that I forgot to mention on the list now that I think about it, but your barrack units will stay alive in the level as long as they don't lose their health. They will stay up as long as they're able to. They do not go away like the reinforcements from the original Kingdom Rush saga did. They will not just disappear after a while. Your hero has, same mechanic as far as a respawn. If it dies, you just respawn it. But the Harpooners, the Trashmen, the Misfits, etc., each one of those, as long as they're on the field and as long as they're alive, they will stay there. They will not disappear. The one exception to this might be, certain tactics, like the mines. Obviously, those will get blown up and then you have to replant them down, but you can plant those pretty darn quickly. The Chopper, on the other hand, the Van Bomber, that one's a little iffy, but it's not enough to the point where I would just be like, oh my god, I hate this. Again, like I said, each ability feels useful, each one has a place in the meta, each one has a clearly defined role, and honestly, I think they're amazing. Cons, you do need to wait for a full pair of Harpooners, same pair, in the same pair, to die before spawning in another. So if I have two sets of Harpooners and one Harpooner from each pair dies, I still gotta wait for the other one to die before I redeploy, on top of the cooldown. You have to wait for both of them to die, and then you have to wait for the cooldown before you can deploy another pair. So I would have reworked that. I would have made it so that if a pair of them dies, just have it be instant, okay? With the Trashman, I can kind of understand that. But again, there's a limit to how many of these that you can deploy onto the battlefield. And it honestly makes it quite easy to make choke points. I mean, if you think about it, if you're using Trashman, Misfits, the Harpooners, and your hero, you can get a lot of troops in one spot on the field. You can make it very easy to just kind of group a bunch of enemies up, put down some artillery, and just go ham. However, that all being said, the respawn times for some tactics could use some tweaking, just a couple of them. Some of them, it doesn't really make sense as far as how long it takes for them to respawn. Again, the Harpooners, that is a prime example of that. There's a couple others as well. And some of the troop tactics, the Misfits, the Trashmen, kind of need reworking as well in terms of deployment. The Trashmen, what we saw in the trailer was that we saw a line of them kind of marching into battle. And I envisioned it as being something that you could deploy them in a group, kind of like the Harpooners. But instead, you have to deploy one of them at a time. I understand they're tanky units, and to be able to deploy 3 of them at once might seem a little bit broken, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I feel like they kind of misrepresented that in the trailer a little bit. So maybe they need a bit of reworking as well in terms of deployment. Now, moving on from that, ladies and gentlemen, what are my overall initial observations on this game? Number 1, the first boss fight, which is the only boss fight I've done up until this point, just a disclaimer, was very, very easy. Even though he has 3 phases. So I heard that and I thought, oh, okay, 3 phases. Well, crap, he's probably going to be like Umbra or something. No, this guy was a piece of cake. Like, for real. 3 phases, and his hit bar goes down by quite a bit if you use the Molotov cocktail ability. I don't remember the exact name of it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like a bomb. You throw it, and it just deals a bunch of splash damage, which, by the way, that AoE is ridiculously just generous. In any case, not a very difficult boss fight. It's kind of anticlimactic considering the wave composition. Some of those levels are really difficult, especially in the early game. And I don't know, I just felt like for a first boss fight, it was a little bit too easy. Like with Bulgar's Throne on Impossible, when I played that through for the first time on Kingdom Rush Vengeance, and I was doing challenges, or even just vanilla gameplay with the free towers that I had on mobile. I thought it was a little bit difficult at first, and it did take me a little while to kind of get around and figure out what I was doing with that level. So I kind of wish the first boss fight for this would have been easy, but hopefully we will not face that same issue with the other bosses. And again, I haven't played through the rest of the game. I have no idea how the second or third maps are going to play out, but from what I've heard and seen from other players, it does seem pretty interesting and potentially much more difficult. And hopefully it is. So the quests and missions are nice on top of the rewards that you can earn while gaining experience levels at the end of each level. It will also give you gold, plutonium. Like I mentioned before, that plutonium is pretty easy to make back. You just got to beat the level. And I know that sounds kind of difficult. You're like, well, yeah, now you have to beat the level to get it back. Really, these levels are not that hard. It's the pacing that makes it seem difficult. And the enemy wave composition, I feel like is much more... I don't know. I feel like the synergy of the enemies is very nice. When you have the fast-moving bikers, but then also the bandit shields, it's really cool. And it definitely makes the game a lot more difficult because your towers, they'll have a little bit more difficulty focusing on the targets you want them to. But at the same time, just from what I've experienced, each one of them synergizes well with each other. So while the enemies have good synergy, so do the towers. It balances out. The tower variety could use some minor improvements and reworks, as I've already mentioned before, but overall it's really well-rounded and fun to use. The same thing goes for the tactics, and hopefully in the hard launch we'll see some more variety for both of these groups, not only the towers, but also the tactics. And I would also love to see some more hero units, perhaps, besides Mr. Mad Mark. Would definitely like to see some more heroes. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this presentation. Like I said, these are just my initial first impressions. Honestly, I'm quite impressed with this game. I think it was great. Like I said before, it not only met my expectations, it exceeded them. Is it perfect? No. No game that is in its soft launch would be ever perfect, okay? I would be very surprised if it was. Also, another thing to keep in mind, guys, this is not Kingdom Rush. It has a completely different play style, completely different, feel to it. And that's something that you guys need to keep in mind when you guys start replying in the comments section, which I get it. Everybody's got a right to voice their own opinion and everything. That's great. But do so with a purpose. Do so with the intention that you're not attacking people, you're attacking the problems. And to be quite frankly honest, while this game doesn't have zero problems, it doesn't have that many either. And I feel like this could definitely be one of the better games that Ironhide has released. Honestly, overall, I'm very well pleased with it, and I hopefully we'll hear back some feedback from everybody else as far as what their thoughts are on it. And hopefully you guys enjoy this game as much as I have, not only now, but going forward into the future.